What is happening, Magnusites? I don't know. I don't know. You know, I just have a feeling that after I watch Supergirl and after the majority of the fandom watches Supergirl, I don't think that the majority of them are going to be like, yo, did you see Supergirl? Psh, yo, go and watch Supergirl. Like, I just don't feel that that's going to happen. Like, I feel like it happened with Man of Steel. You know, like, yo, did you see Man of Steel? Yo, go see Man of Steel. Even though it was divisive, Batman v Superman, I feel like people after that were like, yo, go. I know I was. Zack Snyder's Justice League. After that, I was like, yo, have you seen that? Watch it. You see what I'm saying? Like, I just, you know. But we'll just have to see here. But always nice to have a lot of fun with the drinker. Get over there and subscribe. Tell them Tyrone Magnus sent you.
You know, I hate to jinx it, but I do believe that 2026 has gotten off to a pretty good start so far. Yeah.
My hunch is that it's just going to be extremely mid, and that's going to be it. And if the rumors about the budget are true, it might make them some money, and then that's it.
And there's been a few missteps along the way for sure, but shows like Night of the Seven Kingdoms and One Piece proved that there's still good TV being made, while Project Hail Mary delivered an excellent science fiction adventure that wasn't tied to some long-running franchise and didn't treat its audience like complete morons. What's a novel idea? Then the other day I was reminded that, oh yeah, Supergirl's coming out soon. How best can I sum up my feelings about this movie? Well, you know when you go back to your hometown for the first time in years and you decide to meet up with some old high school buddies to reconnect over a few drinks, and it all starts out pleasantly enough, but before you know it, they're spouting the same shite they were talking about like a decade earlier, telling the same stories, griping about the same problems, even cracking the same tired old
that
jokes.
Does happen.
And even though the beers are flowing and you're trying to have a good time, yes,
there's a really good nostalgia in that, but I know what you mean. There's a flip side to that where it definitely can be a bad thing. It's like, God, these dudes are stuck in high school, or you know what I mean? You run into people you know sometimes, and it's like, yo, this is bad.
slowly come to the realization that, oh my god, these guys have literally never moved on in life. Well, such is my attitude to James Gunn's Supergirl, which ironically enough isn't actually directed by James Gunn, but might as well be if the trailers are anything to go by. I'm not exactly dreading it. I don't think it's going to be 2 hours of my life that I'll desperately want back by the time the credits roll. But
yeah, I'm thinking that it could be. Even though I think it's going to be mediocre, I could want those 2 hours back. You know what I mean?
But just like that disappointing night out with your old high school friends who turned into not particularly interesting adults, I just can't summon up any real enthusiasm for it. And it seems I'm not the only one. Reactions to this movie so far have been muted at best. Nobody seems especially fired up for this one, and who can blame them really? James Gunn's DCU hasn't exactly bombarded us with quality entertainment to get excited about, and if the behind-the-scenes reports of poor test screenings, multiple reshoots, and a revolving door of composers are accurate, Supergirl's turning into a bit of a clusterfuck. But I'll talk more about that shortly. Believe that. Not to worry though, because if there's one group of people you can always count on to turn a potentially bad PR situation into a fucking nightmare, it's actors.
Yes.
In this case, the star of the show,
Some
Millie
of them
Alcock,
definitely.
who decided to put out the Supergirl fire with gasoline in a recent Variety interview where she declared, "It definitely made me aware that simply existing as a woman in that space is something that people comment on. We've become very comfortable having this weird ownership of women's bodies. I can't really stop them. I can only be myself."
I'll tell you this. The brain is not fully developed in your 20s. They're telling you until around 25, right? Somewhere around that, it finally gets developed. I think she is 25. I know how I thought in things that I said in my 20s. In certain ways, I am highly different than what I used to be. And there were certain things I sure as hell didn't think before I spoke about. So, but it just, this type of comment feels like a drinking the Kool-Aid of the past, I don't know, whatever years of the propaganda that has been going on in Hollywood that they've been shoving down people's throats. It just feel like she read the handbook on that and then did the interview and said this,
What an odd thing to say.
I mean,
Exactly.
You're a female actress playing an established female character. It's not exactly a controversial casting choice. I don't think anyone was up
Right.
in arms about a Supergirl movie getting made.
No,
On the
not
contrary,
at all.
the bigger problem here seems to be, well, apathy. People just don't seem to give much of a
Yeah,
shit
okay.
one way or the other.
He's out of line, but he's right.
And they might care more if the Superman movie was better. I know there are a lot of people that did like it. I got a buddy that I played his voicemail for you, and I don't think he went to see it because he saw my review. But then after he saw it, he thought it was fantastic. And if you knew him, he's not the type of person you would think that movie would be fantastic to him. You wouldn't think that, so maybe it's also based on the performance of the movie. The movie did divide fans heavily. So, there's a lot of fans like myself that's kind of like, well, if this is what you're going to be doing with Superman, I don't want to see what you're going to do with Supergirl. Okay. Most people aren't like me in that most people don't review movies and talk entertainment online on YouTube. So I'm going to go see it because I have to. I truly don't have to, but it's part of my business. My fans want to know what I think about it, so I'm going to go see it. You know what I mean? And I have a slight morbid interest in seeing what the hell happens with this. You know what I'm saying? So that could be part of it. Like if it was a huge success, then maybe there would be a lot. Like some people were saying when people were talking about Supergirl, they say, well, Supergirl might do better than, Superman. Look what Wonder Woman did. Yeah, but Wonder Woman is not the female Superman. I know in ways she is, but Kara Zor, she really is. She's a female Kryptonian. She's, So, but you have to also think we hadn't had a Wonder Woman movie. Period. So now we were finally getting one, and many people liked her the most in Batman v Superman. Like the way she came in, how well she fought, just her outfit, she looked good. Just something about her, she really worked. And I was worried about Gal Gadot being Wonder Woman, but she proved us wrong. So that was a whole different animal, I think. It's just, I don't think you can compare apples to oranges with that. It's not just female superhero after a Superman movie. It's going to do better. It might do better because this one did. No, these are different situations also. Different directors, different actors, different situations. So
However, I was curious about this strange turn of events, and so I did a little digging on the latest news around Supergirl, and well, I believe I understand the problem now. The first issue is the test screenings. According to World of Real, which
They're all over the
generally has a
place.
solid track record on stuff like this, Supergirl has been screened at least 8 different times, more than any other studio film from the past decades. At least 3 different endings have been used so far, with the latest version running at about an hour and 50 minutes, which features a more prominent role for David Corenswet's Superman. Now, call me crazy here, but it almost seems like they're trying to call in the big guns to prop up an IP that they know isn't going to stand on its
yeah, I
own
thought about
merits.
that. I saw something the other day that said they were shooting more scenes with him in reshoots. So they probably either need more Superman in there because he did do well with a certain amount of us over here, or maybe it's all storytelling. Maybe they just needed to shoot more with him. But it makes you think they probably need him more.
According to the report, the reactions have been consistently mixed so far. Not
That's what I
disastrous,
said, they're
but
mixed.
not glowing
Yeah.
either. Several sources mention that the action sequences don't quite land, and that the main villain, Krem, feels underwhelming. For context, I should probably add that
Never heard
test
of
screenings
Krem.
traditionally skew more positive than actual audience scores, because test audiences are usually excited just to be there. They're getting to see the movie for free way in advance of everyone else, and so they tend to be a bit more forgiving than paying customers would be. In a nutshell then, a middling or even mildly positive test screening usually translates to a pretty bad end product. Clearly the studio knows this too, which is why they've done so many test screenings with multiple cuts and at least 3
Interesting.
different endings, all in a desperate search for something that works. In the business, this is what we call fucking panic time. It's when you abandon any real pretense of a cohesive artistic vision and just start throwing shit at a wall in the hopes that something will stick. It actually kind of reminds me of Brave New World, where they ended...
Don't feed your dog like that, folks. Please. Please don't do that. And never, ever, 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 ever feed them what most people consider human food. Listen, going off on a rant really quick. I remember watching this doctor on a YouTube video and then reading about him. And he used to be a veterinarian. And now he treats people. And he said that, this was his words, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, we've been able to cure every single disease and problem that animals have strictly through nutrition and diet. He said, so he thought to himself, let's do that with people, but that goes back through nutrition and diet. Most animals only start to get cancer once they live around humans. Cancer and diabetes and all this other stuff, because they're eating human food and they're eating some of the garbage pet food that's made. Look into raw diets, transferring your pets into raw diets, especially your dogs and your cats and stuff like that. Look into it. I've read up on it. It's a process. You don't want to do it like cold turkey, but it's a process.
Up shooting like 3 complete movies because they completely lost faith in what they were doing, and that doesn't exactly bode well. Then there's the soundtrack. With barely 3 months to go until release, Supergirl is now onto its 3rd official composer, Claudia Sarney, after the previous composer Tom Hulkenberg left the project. And well, you don't need me to tell you that 3 months isn't exactly a long time to compose an entire film score, especially if test screenings are still ongoing and the final cut of the movie hasn't even been nailed down yet. Jesus, talk about...
We'll probably get a whole lot of the 80s music instead, like they've been putting in the trailers to help that out.
Throwing things together at the last minute. I mean, you kind of have to wonder what the point of a composer even is when you're talking about James Gunn's DCU by James Gunn.
You know what I hated about that scene? The movie starts out with him getting beat up. He gets fixed and healed, and he goes back to get beat up again.
I'm willing to bet at least 90% of it will just be licensed pop tracks anyway, because that kind of thing is totally not played out after 10 years. So who...
What did I tell you?
100%. Speaking of James Gunn's DCU by James
Great
Gunn,
minds think alike,
this is the other
drinker.
thing that's probably going to count against Supergirl when it hits theaters. A movie like this would have done just fine if it had a strong DC brand in place to support it, but let's be honest, it doesn't. The best way I can describe Gunn's approach to setting up an extended universe like this is retarded! Rather than get foundational characters like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman set up in their own solo movies and build out from there, Gunn's wasted precious time, resources, and fan goodwill on irrelevant shite that nobody except him even cares about. Superman was a movie reluctantly made out of necessity that barely scraped its way to profitability, and even that's debatable. Peacemaker Season 2 was a fucking disaster that either got ignored or completely shit on, and Creature Commandos was an animated show that nobody even cared about. The end result is a tired
I liked it, and I want more of it. I actually really did like it. There was like one thing in there that they were box checking and everything, but the majority of it was good to me. You know what I mean? Peacemaker was... they went off the deep end with that. The first season's good, but good lord.
In brand that feels like a bunch of disconnected side projects with no clear narrative drive and nothing for fans to get excited about. Which brings me back to young Millie's bizarre statement, because when you think about all of this, it all starts to make a bit more sense. If I was a cynical man, I'd say that Supergirl...
Now, he's probably talking about damage control because people have been saying that you got to get ahead of it. It's kind of like the whole thing with Snape now, the new Snape. Okay, they cast a black man when they didn't have to, when the books clearly describe him as a white man. And they knew it would cause controversy. So you get ahead of it. And you say, oh, I've gotten racist, and people are racist, and racist, and racist, and racist. You get ahead of it being a problem by first talking about it beforehand. So they know that people aren't exactly welcoming the DCU with warm arms right now. So what you do, you get ahead of it. You say, oh, I'm going to get attacked for being a woman anyway. And that's what you do. So that's what people have been saying. Is it propaganda? Is it getting ahead? Is it damage control?
Girl is probably going to flop at the box office, whether because of weak brand momentum, superhero fatigue, lack of interest in the character, just generally being a shit.
And remember, superhero fatigue is really just garbage movie fatigue, woke fatigue, whatever you want to call it, virtue signaling fatigue, propaganda fatigue that they went way too hard with. That's what it really is. It's under the umbrella of all the garbage that they've been shoving into these movies, television shows, books, comic books, video games, everything.
Movie, or a combination of all of this stuff. I think the studio knows this too, and so they're getting their excuses lined up in advance. This is what we call laying the groundwork. No, you see, it wasn't a bad movie churned out by a studio with more flops to their name than a 400-pound diving instructor that arrived about 10 years too late to the superhero party and tried to appeal to an audience that's long since moved on. No, it's because of the sexism and stuff. People just aren't ready to see women in lead roles, and that's why this noble effort was tragically undone.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
Sure, guys, whatever helps you sleep at night, I guess. But something tells me Supergirl is not going to set the box office alight. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Yeah, us fans have loved female heroes forever. Why do you think Wonder Woman did so well? She's great. Okay, people love her, and people have been wanting a legit, proper movie of her for years. People have no problem whatsoever. But what they do have a problem with is being preached to. What they do have a problem with is virtue signaling. What they do have a problem is you forcing a square peg into a round hole over and 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 over again, thinking we'll somehow accept it. It's ridiculous. Post comments down below. Let me know what you all think. Do you think Supergirl will do well? If I had to bet on anything, I just think it's going to do okay. You know what I mean? The type of okay to where a studio doesn't want to greenlight another one. 10 million subscribers.